afternoon. Thank you for watching this grant writing workshop for the New Mexico Crime Victims Reparations Commission's Federal Fiscal Year 2024 VOCA Victim Assistance Competitive Application. My name is Lourdes McKenna, the VOCA Grant Administrator here at New Mexico Crime Victims Reparation Commission. We are pleased to present the Federal Fiscal Year 2024 Victims of Crime Act Victim Assistance Competitive Solicitation. New Mexico Crime Victims Reparation Commission is seeking competitive applications from agencies that provide direct services to victims of crime in New Mexico. Eligible applicants include agencies that have historically received VOCA victim assistance funding from CVRC, but have not been awarded federal fiscal year 2024 VOCA continuation funding. This entire solicitation is being issued as a competitive application process. Funding is not guaranteed for currently or historically funded VOCA victim assistance programs. And again, those agencies that are currently receiving federal fiscal year 2024 VOCA victim assistance continuation funding are not eligible to apply for this RFP. In this grant writing workshop, we will be going through the solicitation, reviewing components of the solicitation, and navigating web grants to assist you as providers of services to victims of crimes on how to submit a competitive application. The solicitation can be found in several places. It has been uploaded to our CVRC website, and it is attached to the funding opportunity and web grants, which we will be going through today. As you can see here, we have the solicitation. We will be going through this document as well as demonstrating how to submit an application in the web grants portal. As I go through the solicitation, I will highlight some of those pieces that people may have questions about. I will then log on to the web grants portal and show you how to enter information for the application into the system. You may want to print out this RFP and highlight sections as we go through it, or in Adobe, highlight the text and make notes on the solicitation. First, please be sure to note the due date. Applications under this competitive RFP are due Monday, September 18th, 2023. Mark that date on your calendar and set reminders. I would also suggest that you give yourself 2 days before the due date to get the application submitted in the system, just to make sure there are no technology issues that you run into. Do not wait until the last minute to hit the submit button. As you can see, we have the table of contents that outlines the entire solicitation. You can go through this table of contents if you're looking for a specific section. Again, the purpose of this competitive application is to fund agencies that provide direct services to victims of crime that are not currently receiving VOCA victim assistance continuation funding in federal fiscal year 24. The entire solicitation is a competitive application process, but funding is not guaranteed for currently or historically funded VOCA victim assistance programs. This funding is for 11 months. This funding will start November 1st, 2023 through September 30th of 2024. Programs funded under this competitive RFP will be eligible for funding for the 3 years. So federal fiscal year 2024, 25, and 26. The specific level for future funding cycles in federal fiscal year 25 and 26 are uncertain at this time, as that funding is dependent on the Office for Victims of Crime and the Crime Victim Fund allocations. The next page of the solicitation is the sequence of events timeline. Please note the due dates for each of these actions. This RFP was issued on Monday, August 28th. We are currently recording the grant writing workshop, which will be available no later than Friday, September 1st. In the Web Grants portal, agencies are able to submit questions related to the solicitation. We will show you how to do that once we log into the Web Grants portal. All questions must be emailed within that Web Grant system by Friday, September 15th. The last question will be answered at 10 a.m. that morning. Again, the due date for these applications are due Monday, September 18th at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We will then seek preliminary approval from the CVRC Commission. Letters of those approvals will be mailed out on Friday, September 29th. The agencies will then receive notification of special conditions related to their application. Once those are returned and reviewed, we will seek final approval from our commission on October 26th, 2023. Again, the start of the award period is Wednesday, November 1st, 2023. We encourage that agencies read this solicitation in its entirety. Again, we've talked about the term of the award, November 1st, 2023 through September 30th of 2024. Awarded funds are guaranteed for the initial 11-month period with continuation funding for 2 additional years, which will be determined on the federal appropriations. We will continue to go through this application. It talks about the proposal review committee. Again, the preliminary notifications, the appeal process, and final awards. Next is a list of definitions of terminology. And then background information on the New Mexico Crime Victims Reparation Commission. I am not going to read through every single page of this solicitation, but again, I highly encourage you to look at some of the requirements and to read the solicitation in its entirety. Some of the general requirements to be aware of are that all applicants under this solicitation must have a unique entity ID, which is generated by the System for Award Management government system. This solicitation also talks about incurring costs, disclosure of application contents, the basis for the application. All applications under this solicitation must understand and agree to abide by all federal regulations. Some of these include equal opportunity compliance, civil rights and non-discrimination compliance, and providing meaningful access to victims with limited English proficiency. Every agency must have an accessibility and language access plan as part of their application. It then highlights some of the underserved populations. It talks about fraud, waste, and abuse, and some of the certification requirements that are required for programs and projects across the state of New Mexico. This project does require match. This section will talk about how agencies should calculate match and include match in their budget. If you are a tribal entity, you are not required to submit match under the federal guidelines. Match is 20% of the total budget. And the way in which you calculate that is you take the federal funds requested times 0.25 divided by 0.75, and that will equal your match total. It is mandated for the Victims of Crime Act that funded agencies have volunteers that assist in the delivery of services or that provide eligible VOCA victim assistance volunteer work within your organization. It is also a requirement that your organization adhere to all rules and regulations regarding the Victims of Crime Act program rules and regulations, as well as federal financial guidelines from the Office for Victims of Crime, the Office of the Chief Financial Officer, as well as the Department of Justice and New Mexico Crime Victims Reparation Commission. Agencies who apply for this funding must adhere to ensuring programmatic and financial data are kept in accordance with your approved program and project, and that your agency has the ability to submit the necessary financial documents as well as the required statistical documents and information to support the delivery of services. Agencies must ensure that services are kept confidential and that you adhere to those confidentiality and privacy standards. It is a requirement that VOCA victim assistance funding is intended to enhance, expand, or sustain already federally funded programs and projects. It is not intended to supplant any state funding. All agencies awarded funds are required to have an agency audit. If you do not reach the OMB 133 uniform guide for the $750,000 single audit requirement, we still require that your agency have an audit in which the testing of funding that is received by our office is completed per the Code of Federal Regulations. The cost of an audit is not an item that you can include within your agency budget. We cannot use federal funds or matching funds to support the costs related to an audit. However, it is a requirement for your agency to have an audit. Let's review the training requirements. One of the things that we see is agencies put training in their application, but do not include them in their primary project components. So I would encourage you to ensure that you are including that within your primary project components. Next, it goes through allowable costs and unallowable costs, as well as expressly unallowable costs and activities. The next sections of this RFP discuss the grant application, the information required, and the documents that are needed. It also provides information on the evaluation that will be conducted by the peer review committee. Next, I will go through web grants and show you how to navigate through the system. I will show you how to download the solicitation and complete the application. I will also show you how to ensure that multiple people can have access to the application that you're working on before the deadline due date. On this login page, this is where individuals in the agency who are currently not registered in web grants, but will be assisting with the application, can register as a new user, clicking on this yellow "Click here to register" button. So I will go ahead and log into web grants. I'm going to log in under our testing account so that I can demonstrate to you what it would look like on your end to put together a competitive application under the solicitation. If you forget your user ID, all you need to do is click here on this Forgot User ID button. If you forgot your password, you can do the same thing by clicking on this Forgot Password, and you would enter your user ID and the system will email you a new password. So let me go ahead and log into the system. And this is the dashboard and what you would see. You can see the funding opportunity is here at the top. And if you click on the sidebar under funding opportunities, you will see we have our test program, but here is the posted funding opportunity for our federal fiscal year 2024 competitive solicitation. So we will click on that. And as you can see, the final application deadline is September 18th at 4 p.m. The solicitation shows it will have a project start date of November 1st through November 30th of 2024. Award notifications will go out on September 29th. The description walks through the introduction and the purpose of this funding. Again, this entire solicitation is being issued as a competitive application. Agencies currently receiving federal fiscal year 24 VOCA victim assistance continuation funding are not eligible to apply through this solicitation. The sequence of events timeline that was in the solicitation is also here with all the same due dates and actions. The next section is attachments. These are attachments that will be useful to you in completing your application. The federal assurances form. This is the RFP that we were just looking at, so that agencies may download the RFP directly from this funding opportunity. This form is the SFLLL form, which is our lobbying disclosure form, and also included our instructions for how to complete that form. Next are website links to directly to our agency website, a link to the SFLLL form that can be downloaded online if the form above does not download for you. And the link to this grant writing workshop will also be listed here upon conclusion of this recording. The next section is where agencies may ask questions related to this solicitation. Questions come to the Crime Victims Reparation Commission, and once they are answered, they are posted for all to see. As you can see, we've had a couple of questions already submitted asking about eligibility for this funding opportunity and the number of programs that may be funded under this solicitation. As we go back up to the top of this page, this blue button is how you can ask a question. So you would click on that blue button, and here's where your question will be typed in, and then you will hit save to submit. Again, questions that you post here will be open for anyone applying to this funding opportunity to see. So please be careful what you post. The next blue button is to copy an existing application. The Copy an Existing Application feature in web grants is intended for organizations that have applied for the selected program area in the past and wish to start a new application with information pre-populated from a previous application. If you click on Complete Copy an Existing Application, it will give you a list of all applications that your agency has in the system. And then you can select the one that you would like to copy by choosing the radio button and hitting Copy Application. However, if you do not have an application to copy or wish to not have it pre-populated with information that you will have to go back in and update or change anyway, you may want to just start a new application. So we will start a new application. Our application title is VOCA Victim Assistance Federal Fiscal Year 24 application. You will then select a primary contact from people that are already registered in web grants and associated with your agency. And then you will save your information. If you have multiple people registered in your agency, in addition to the primary contact, you may want to select additional contacts that would have access to this application. We will save this form. As you can see, you get a warning saying application cannot be submitted currently because all of the components have not been completed. We just completed the general information. Again, if we click on general information and edit the form, this is where you will be able to add additional people from your agency to work on the application. They must be registered in web grants before they will show up as an option. The next section is the grant application. The project type will be competitive new project. Please indicate your targeted communities and counties, the category of victims served. To select multiple options, you would hit the Control or Command button, and as you can see, it will list all that are selected. Is the applicant system for awards is the applicant system for award management, the SAM registration, current? The answer should be yes. All applicants must be registered in the SAM.gov system and have a unique entity identifier. You will then list the expiration date, as well as your 12-digit alphanumeric UEI. Include a brief summary of the proposed project, the finance officer's name, their title, and their mailing address. Excuse me while I complete my application. We do want a valid phone number and a valid email. It will then ask you if the authorized official is the same as the finance officer, and if the person responsible for reporting civil rights is the same as the finance officer. If you select no, it will expand and provide you the opportunity to enter that information. We will select yes for both of these. As you can see on the grant application, we have now completed all of the required fields. I can press the green button to edit the form, or I can mark this as complete. Here it is marked as complete. The standard conditions are listed here. Again, it talks about the non-supplanting, reading and understanding the request for proposals, agreeing to comply with all CVRC and federal requirements, having a limited English proficiency and accessibility plan. Once those conditions are reviewed and the authorized official agrees to those, the authorized official will sign here. With the current date. Then again, we will save this form. Everything has been completed, all required fields, so we can edit it if necessary or mark this as complete. We will continue on to the VOCA narrative section of the application. Items that are in red with an asterisk are required to be completed. Agencies should read each question listed here and then provide your answer. It is advisable for agencies to create these questions in a Word document and then copy and paste, but you can type directly into these boxes as well. It asks about funding. It asks about your targeted populations. The services that are provided by the agency. The ways in which the proposed project will address the priorities outlined in the New Mexico implementation plan. Underserved individuals. Again, it is a requirement to have a volunteer program. And then any community partners that the agency has collaborated with for this project. Once all of that information is entered, again, you save the form using the green button. You have the option to edit the form or mark as complete. We will continue with our application for the budget. The first section of the budget is personnel. You will add rows using this green button to add a row. And then you will list the personnel name, their position, their annual salary, an hourly rate, the federal hours that they will be working on this project, and these hours should be entered as per week hours. So this advocate will be doing 20 hours of federal funded work and 20 hours of match for the entire year. And then you will enter the amount. And save your row. As you can see, I now have all of the information listed here. If I have additional personnel, I will just continue to add rows. And the same thing for benefits. If I am paying benefits with this funding, I will enter that. Benefits should be listed by type and amount. So I am paying FICA at 7.65%, SUTA at 2%, and retirement at 10%. Gross benefits are $5,000. Again, this person is working half-time federal and half-time match, so will be 50% for each for the entire year. And again, I would list those amounts under federal and match as appropriate and save the information. I can continue to enter other categories of funding that I am requesting in state travel, maintenance and repairs, supplies, and other categories. The next section is the budget justification. This is a very important section. Any information that is entered into the budget, this is the place where agencies can provide further explanations, information, and justifications. So if I had entered supplies, I would want to say the supplies would include paper, ink pens, paper clips, and postage. And I would save that information. And as I scroll down, I will see that budget justification. Again, it is very important that agencies enter a budget justification for the line items to provide additional information. The totals will actually automatically calculate based on the numbers entered up above. Again, once I'm done entering my budget, I can continue to edit it, or I can mark it as complete. I am getting close to the end of my application. The next section are your primary project components. Again, you will add a row. Primary project components should be the primary objectives that this funding will help the agency achieve to provide services to victims in New Mexico. So I will have my goal. I must have a measurable objective and the implementing activity that will tell me how I plan to meet that measurable objective. It asks who will be performing those activities. Again, these should be the personnel that are being funded by the project. It asks which quarter those will be performed in. I am going to choose all 4 quarters because this person will be working on these activities to meet the goal throughout the year. And then you will include the impact that this activity will have for victims. And I will save that. And again, you can see my information. I will add another measurable objective. It will be the same goal, but this is going to be a different measurable objective with a different implementing activity. Although it all rolls up to the same goal. And save that information. Again, you can see now I have my goal and my 2 measurable objectives. I will then mark this section as complete and move on to my certification of collaboration. New Mexico Crime Victim Reparation Commission requires that all funded state, local, and tribal government and non-governmental subrecipients certify that they have consulted with victim service programs and other governmental service providers during the development of their subgrant application. This information must be submitted as part of the application. So again, I will add a row. I will enter the name of the person that I spoke with. The agency and the date and content of the meeting. Remember, these are meetings that were held in a preparation of submitting this application. Therefore, dates prior to the release of the RFP are not eligible, and normal meetings such as MDT meetings also are not eligible. And I will save that. Again, please note that multidisciplinary teams, coordinated community responses, and task force meetings do not qualify. Consultation means meeting with entities in the development of this application. Once I have all of my certification of collaboration contacts listed, I will mark as complete. The last section of my application is the additional documentation required. You can see the list of documents, and anything with a check mark in this column is required. So assurances. I would advise agencies to create a folder on your desktop or somewhere on your computer with all of the files that you will be uploading. So if I look at my desktop, I have my file here, and here are my assurances. And I can attach those and save. Next are job descriptions, contracts, and resumes. Job descriptions and resumes for all personnel listed in the budget are required, and copies of contracts for any contractual expenses that are included in the budget. The agency's most recent audit will be uploaded in this row. The agency's approved budget. The agency must provide a spreadsheet that lists the funding by source for the past 3 years. So this will be the entire agency budget for the last 3 years broken down by funding source. Next is the staff funding source spreadsheet. So a spreadsheet that lists all staff in the agency and the funding sources by percentage or hours per week. The limited English proficiency and accessibility plan will be uploaded here. For nonprofits, you must upload bylaws and articles of incorporation, as well as proof of your nonprofit status and a list of your board members. The list of board members should contain contact information and terms for each of the board members. All agencies will also upload an organizational chart, and again, this disclosure of lobbying activities, the SFLLL form. There are also slots available if there are additional documents that the agency would like to provide. Once all documents have been all required documents have been uploaded, the agency can mark this as complete. The system will not allow me to mark this as complete because, as you can see, I'm missing many of my required documents. It will give me this error message. So I will hit OK. And if I go back to my application list, again, I can see the components of the application. Those that have been marked as complete. I still need to complete my additional documentation required. Once I have all of that uploaded and this row is checkmarked, there will be another button here that says Submit Application. The agency may then press that Submit Application button. A couple of things that I would recommend before you submit your application: go back to your additional documentation required and look at each file and file name to make sure that it is the correct file. You want to go back and make sure that they're all in the correct rows and it is the correct type of document. Go back to each section of your application and review all information before you hit submit. Once you hit submit, it is going to ask you if you are sure, and then it will submit your application for you. Save this proof of submission, print it out, PDF it, take a picture with your camera phone, write the application number down, whatever information you can collect to make sure that the application has been submitted within the system. We hope that we have made this application process as simple as possible. We've gone through the web grant system. Again, in your RFP, for each section of the application, it will talk about what is required, the project type, the project summary, standard conditions. Again, here are the questions that must be answered for the narrative. Again, it talks about the project budget and goes over how to enter information in the budget and what information we're looking for. The budget justification, which again is an extremely important section to be completed. The primary project components, and the RFP does provide examples for the primary project components. And then the RFP contains additional information for each of the documents under the additional documents section of the application. Again, we hope that we've provided adequate information in the RFP and made the application process through the Web Grants portal as simple as possible. We know that submitting an application is complicated and it requires a lot of time and effort and activity on behalf of the organization and multiple people within the agencies. We have been mindful and thoughtful during the solicitation period in trying not to overwhelm agencies. We hope that this webinar provided helpful information to assist you with getting your applications in by September 18th. Please utilize the Ask a Question section in web grants. We cannot answer questions directly to you during the solicitation process, as that would violate our procurement process. We want to be fair and ensure that everyone has the same information. Please read through the solicitation. And again, we hope that this grant writing workshop and how to submit an application is helpful to you in the application process. And we look forward to seeing your competitive application submitted. Thank you for your time and for all the effort that you have done in putting forth the application and providing services to victims of crime in the state of New Mexico.